Let's look at what has actually happened. The total number of forces that were involved in this on the Ukrainian side turned out to be about 12,000. Initially, 1,000 went in. They discovered how light the resistance was, and they poured in an additional 11,000 troops. Right now, we estimate that close to 3,500 to 4,000 have been killed or wounded. We now know that all of the heavy equipment, tanks, artillery, radars, missiles, everything that they brought with them has been destroyed. Most of it by Iskander missiles, a tactical ballistic missile system the Russians employ that carries about a 1,200-pound warhead, different kinds of warheads for different purposes, including fuel-air explosive. These have annihilated all of the heavy equipment. At the same time, they moved to the area a number of Chechen forces on one side, Wagner military types on the other, and then the so-called
In the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the battlefield has seen significant shifts, with the Kursk region becoming a focal point of intense military engagements. As Colonel Douglas MacGregor has often emphasized, the complexity and depth of Russia's strategic operations cannot be underestimated. Today, we delve into the latest developments, analyzing the strategic maneuvers and their profound impacts on both sides. From Russia's calculated strikes to Ukraine's escalating losses, we bring you the detailed report, a report that will take you deep into the heart of the conflict, examining every crucial detail that defines this battle. As we explore these events, it's essential to understand the broader implications of each move on the chessboard. This isn't just a series of isolated incidents, it's a carefully orchestrated campaign where every strike, every maneuver, has a ripple effect that reverberates across the entire theater of war. The stakes have never been higher, and the outcomes of these battles could very well determine the future course of this conflict. Kursk has once again emerged as a critical front in this prolonged conflict, and the recent developments have only solidified its importance. According to Colonel Douglas MacGregor, the significance of Kursk lies not only in its military value, but in its symbolic weight, a place where strategic decisions can alter the course of the war. Russia's recent attacks have not only targeted Ukrainian positions, but have also strategically disrupted their supply lines, cutting off vital resources and weakening their defensive capabilities. The assault on Ternopil is a prime example. Initially mistaken for a mere fuel depot, this location was later confirmed to be a chemical storage facility, a detail that adds a new layer of complexity to the ongoing environmental and humanitarian crisis in the region. The resulting fires and explosions have left the area engulfed in smoke, a stark reminder of the ecological disasters that have plagued this region. The scale of destruction here is not just a tactical victory for Russia, but a significant psychological blow to Ukraine. These aren't just military targets, they are vital infrastructure points that, once lost, severely cripple Ukraine's ability to sustain its war effort. Linking back to last year's uranium depot explosions, which caused radioactive fallout and long-term environmental damage, we see a deliberate pattern of targeted strikes. Russia is methodically choosing targets that have far-reaching consequences, not just for the immediate battle, but for the long-term viability of Ukrainian resistance. These are not random acts of aggression, they are calculated moves designed to weaken Ukraine at every level militarily, economically, and environmentally. Russia's recent missile strikes have further escalated the pressure on Ukrainian forces, pushing them into a defensive stance that leaves little room for strategic counterattacks. Colonel Douglas MacGregor has pointed out the precision and intensity of these strikes, highlighting Russia's ability to inflict maximum damage with minimal effort. In particular, the cities of Myrnorad and Pokrovsk were struck by Iskander missiles, a move that indicates the presence of significant Ukrainian assets in these areas. The precision of these strikes suggests that Russia is receiving accurate intelligence, allowing them to hit high-value targets with devastating effect. Meanwhile, a Russian attack on a Poltava airfield reportedly destroyed an aircraft, although details on the type remain undisclosed, adding to the growing list of Ukrainian military assets lost in recent days. These strikes underscore Russia's continued focus on crippling Ukrainian military infrastructure. It's not just about the immediate destruction, but the long-term impact on Ukraine's ability to wage war. By targeting critical supply lines, communication hubs, and military installations, Russia is ensuring that every strike exacts a heavy toll on Ukrainian forces. The psychological impact of these strikes cannot be understated. Each successful attack further demoralizes Ukrainian troops and sows doubt within their ranks. Moreover, the frequency and intensity of these attacks are increasing, indicating a shift in Russia's strategy. no longer content with holding their positions. Russian forces are now actively seeking to degrade Ukraine's military capacity, forcing them into a reactive mode where they are constantly on the back foot. This shift is crucial because it means that Ukraine is losing the initiative, a critical factor in any military campaign. Reports from the southern front suggest that Ukraine has initiated a new offensive in the Zaporizhia region, although the details remain scarce and shrouded in uncertainty. There are indications that this may be a desperate attempt to regain lost ground and momentum. However, Ukrainian forces appear to be spread thin, as evidenced by their recent failures in Sumy and Kursk. The strain on Ukrainian resources is becoming increasingly apparent, and their ability to sustain multiple fronts is in serious question. Zelensky's recent statements about the dire situation in Avdiivka, coupled with the significant losses in Kursk, reflect a growing concern within Ukrainian leadership. The heavy casualties, particularly in the battlefields of Bakhmut, Toretsk, and Avdiivka, signal a breaking point where Ukrainian forces may no longer sustain their defensive efforts. These regions have become killing fields where the cost of holding the line is measured in lives lost and equipment destroyed. The southern front, in particular, is a crucial area of concern. If Ukraine loses its grip here, it could open the door for Russian forces to push further west, potentially cutting off key supply routes and isolating Ukrainian forces in the east. The signs are already there: increased Russian air activity, heavy artillery bombardments, and the deployment of additional troops to the region. All of this points to a renewed Russian offensive aimed at breaking Ukrainian resistance once and for all. The numbers tell a grim story, a story of relentless pressure and mounting losses that have pushed Ukrainian forces to the brink. In a single day, Ukraine lost 2,355 personnel, the highest recorded in this conflict, a record that reflects the intensity and brutality of the current phase of the war. Kursk alone accounted for 350 soldiers, 21 armored vehicles, 4 tanks, 8 other military vehicles. The devastation in this region is staggering, and it's clear that Ukrainian forces are struggling to hold their ground against a well-coordinated and determined Russian assault. Bakhmut, another critical battleground, saw nearly 700 casualties, with Avdiivka close behind at 585. These figures, when compared to previous records, represent a new peak in the attrition war, pushing Ukrainian forces to the brink. Each day that passes sees more bloodshed, more destruction, and less hope for a quick resolution. The Ukrainian military is being stretched to its limits, and the strain is beginning to show in both their tactics and their morale. Russia, on the other hand, continues to systematically dismantle Ukrainian capabilities. The recent liberation of New York, a key logistical hub in Toretsk, and the interception of 10 HIMARS missiles are just the latest examples of Russia's tactical superiority on the battlefield. These victories are not just symbolic, they represent significant blows to Ukraine's war effort, further tipping the balance in Russia's favor. As the toll mounts, the question arises: how long can Ukraine sustain these losses? With each passing day, the situation grows more dire, and the prospect of a decisive Ukrainian victory seems increasingly remote. The reality on the ground is stark, and it paints a picture of a conflict that is slowly but surely turning against Ukraine. In a move that signals Russia's long-term commitment to this conflict, President Putin's visit to Chechnya marks a critical point in Russia's war strategy. Meeting with President Kadyrov and special forces, Putin is laying the groundwork for a sustained military presence, particularly in the volatile regions of Sumy and Kursk. Colonel Douglas MacGregor has remarked on the importance of such high-level engagements, noting that they often precede significant military operations, and this visit is no exception. This visit is not merely a symbolic gesture, it is a clear indication that Russia is preparing for a protracted conflict, one that could drag on for months, if not years. The establishment of 3 new military corps to defend and support these regions further underscores Russia's strategic intent. These corps are not just defensive formations, they are designed to be highly mobile and adaptable, capable of both defending key positions and launching counteroffensives as needed. This flexibility is crucial in a conflict where the front lines are constantly shifting and where quick, decisive action can mean the difference between victory and defeat. Putin's visit also serves as a morale booster for the troops stationed in these regions. By meeting with the men and women on the ground, he is sending a clear message that their efforts are recognized and valued. This is a vital aspect of maintaining troop morale in a prolonged conflict, where the grind of daily combat can quickly wear down even the most disciplined soldiers. Moreover, the visit highlights the importance of Chechnya as a training ground for Russian special forces. Chechnya has long been a crucible for some of Russia's most elite units, and their involvement in the conflict is a testament to the seriousness with which Russia is approaching this war. The training and experience these troops bring to the battlefield could prove to be a decisive factor in the outcome of the conflict, especially as the war drags on and both sides look for any advantage they can find. As we analyze the broader picture, it's clear that Russia is engaging in a calculated war of attrition. By creating new battlefields and forcing Ukraine to spread its already thin resources, Russia is ensuring that every engagement costs Ukraine dearly. The creation of new fronts, particularly in areas like Kursk and Sumy, serves a dual purpose. It forces Ukraine to commit more troops while allowing Russia to methodically grind down their forces. Colonel Douglas MacGregor has repeatedly emphasized that attrition warfare is where Russia excels, leveraging its vast resources and superior logistics to outlast and outmaneuver its adversaries. This strategy of attrition is not new, but Russia's execution of it in this conflict has been masterful. The Russian military has managed to maintain a high level of combat readiness, rotating troops in and out of the front lines to ensure that they remain fresh and capable. This contrasts sharply with Ukraine's increasingly desperate and undertrained forces, who are being pushed into battle with little preparation and even less support. The war of attrition is also a psychological battle. Every loss, every defeat wears down the resolve of the Ukrainian forces and their leadership. The knowledge that Russia has the resources and the will to continue this conflict indefinitely is a powerful weapon in itself. It forces Ukraine to make difficult choices. Do they continue to fight on multiple fronts, knowing that they are slowly being worn down? Or do they concentrate their forces in a desperate attempt to achieve a breakthrough, risking everything in the process? As this conflict continues, the war of attrition will likely become the defining feature of the struggle between Russia and Ukraine. Russia's strategy is clear. They are in this for the long haul, and they are prepared to do whatever it takes to achieve their objectives. The question now is whether Ukraine can find a way to counter this strategy, or if they will continue to be ground down by the relentless pressure of Russian military power. As we close this report, the situation remains dire for Ukraine. The conflict in Kursk is but one of many fronts where Ukraine faces overwhelming odds. As Colonel Douglas MacGregor has noted, the unfolding events in Kursk could be a turning point, one that dictates the trajectory of this conflict moving forward. With record losses and strategic positions falling into Russian hands, the question remains, how much longer can Ukraine withstand the relentless pressure? The war of attrition that Russia has so effectively employed is not just a military strategy, it is a war on Ukraine's very ability to sustain itself. With each passing day, the losses mount, and the chances of a Ukrainian victory diminish. The reality on the ground is harsh, and it is becoming increasingly clear that without significant changes in strategy or support, Ukraine may find itself overwhelmed by the sheer weight of Russian military power. Only time will tell, but as it stands, Russia's strategic mastery is leading this conflict into a new phase, one where the attrition of Ukrainian forces may ultimately determine the outcome. The stakes are higher than ever, and the world watches with bated breath as this conflict continues to unfold.